All right, let's talk about building great software. The default answer is usually we need a bigger team. But what if I told you that's exactly the wrong way to think about it? We're going to dig into a classic idea from Fred Brooks, the Mythical Man-Month, that just completely flips that idea on its head. And it all kicks off with one pretty startling number: 10 to 1. Yeah, you heard that right. That's not a small gap. Studies found that's the productivity ratio between the best programmers and the worst ones. We're not talking about someone being a little bit better. The top performers are literally 10 times more productive. Now, once you know that, it changes absolutely everything about how you should build a team. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? The dream is to have that small, elite squad of superstars, all working in perfect harmony. It sounds amazing. It is the ideal. But that simple dream runs headfirst into a very, very big problem. And here it is. This is the central conflict, the cruel dilemma. How do you take that perfect, small, sharp team and use it to build something massive? We're talking about huge, complex systems, the kind that a handful of people just can't build in any kind of reasonable time frame. To really get a feel for the scale of this problem, just look at this number: 5,000 man-years. That was the estimate to build IBM's groundbreaking OS/360. Think about it. Even a super productive team of 10 people would need a decade to finish a job that big. And by then, the technology would be ancient history. So this leaves you with two pretty bad options. On one side, you've got your small, sharp team. The work they produce is beautiful, with what's called high conceptual integrity. That just means it all feels like it was designed by one clear, coherent mind. But they're just too slow for the big stuff. So on the other side, you've got the brute force approach. Just throw hundreds of people at it. Sure, you get the manpower, but the result is almost always costly, slow, and a total mess. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. Is there a way to get the focus and the quality of that small team, but with the raw power of a big one? Is it actually possible to get the best of both worlds here? Well, it turns out there might be an answer. And it comes from a really elegant proposal by a computer scientist named Harlan. He said we needed to completely rethink what a programming team is. And he drew his inspiration from a totally different, high-stakes place: the operating room. And here is the core idea, the big metaphor. The standard way of doing things is what Brooks called a hog-butchering team. I love that name. It's where everybody just grabs a knife and starts hacking away at the problem, mostly getting in each other's way. The alternative? The surgical team. Here, one expert, the surgeon, does all the critical cutting, while the rest of the team exists for one reason and one reason only: to make that surgeon as effective as humanly possible. And just like that, this model solves the dilemma. See, you have very few minds, really just one main mind, doing the core design and building. That keeps the conceptual integrity high, but you still have many hands working on the total problem, which gives you the manpower you need. So let's meet the team, shall we? Because this is how you build a high-performance unit. And I'll tell you right now, it's way more interesting than just a lead developer and a few junior developers. At the absolute center of it all, you have the surgeon, the chief programmer. This is the master craftsman, the person who is personally responsible for the whole creative act. They define the problem, they design the solution, they write the code, they test it, they document it, the whole shebang. This person has to be immensely talented. Now, every great surgeon needs a great co-pilot. The co-pilot is just as skilled and could take over in a heartbeat. But that's not their main job. Their job is to be the alter ego, the sounding board. They question ideas, they research alternatives, they make sure the design is solid from every angle. They are the ultimate insurance policy. Okay, and here is the secret sauce. This is where that 10x productivity really comes from. It's an entire support staff whose only job is to remove every single obstacle from the surgeon's path. The administrator handles all the bureaucracy. The editor makes the documentation perfect. The toolsmith, how cool is that, builds custom tools. The tester's whole job is to try and break the surgeon's code. Each role is laser-focused on offloading a task so the surgeon can do the one thing they need to do: build. So this all sounds great for a team of, say, 10 people. But I know what you're thinking. What about that 5,000 man-year monster project? How on earth does a concept like this scale up to something that needs hundreds of people? Well, the magic is all in simplifying communication. Just look at this chart. In a traditional 200-person project, you have a coordination nightmare. You're trying to align 200 different minds. But if you organize those 200 people into 20 surgical teams, the problem completely changes. You're no longer coordinating individuals. You're just coordinating the surgeons. Let that sink in for a second. You get the full manpower of 200 people, but you have the design and communication overhead of only 20 minds. The complexity just shrinks by an order of magnitude. Suddenly, it's a manageable problem again because you're coordinating between the chiefs, not the entire army.
Of course, you have to make sure all those separate pieces are going to fit together perfectly in the end, so you add one more crucial role, the system architect. This person designs the high-level blueprint for the entire project. Think of them as the city planner who lays out the main streets and zones. Then each surgical team can go off and build its own perfect little neighborhood, confident that it will all plug into the larger city.
When you zoom out, this model does something really profound. It takes programming out of the private notebooks of individuals and turns it into a visible, shared, public asset. The program clerk keeps a library of everything, all the code, all the tests. It all becomes team property, and that fosters a culture of collaboration and incredible quality. So this leaves us with a final thought, a question to ask ourselves. Even though this idea is decades old, it's still a powerful way to look at how we work. So ask yourself, is your team built like a surgical team, where you empower your best people to do their absolute best work? Or is it more like a hog butchering team, where you just hand everyone a knife and hope for the best? It's definitely something worth thinking about.